hell are you? We are Venom.
Venom, the anti-hero turned vigilante. Let's take a look at Venom as we prepare for Venom: The Last Dance, the third and probably last film in the franchise. So, what do we know about him? In Marvel Comics, he is often linked to Spider-Man's adventures in New York. Nope, not this. Nobody wants to see this. Now that's what I'm talking about. So Venom is a sentient alien symbiote with a fluid amorphous form that needs a host to survive. Kind of like a parasite, but don't call him that because he is very sensitive about it.
I have a parasite.
Parasite?
Yeah, it's a term of endearment, that's all.
Apologize!
No.
Apologize!
All right, fine. I'm sorry.
Originating from the planet Clintar as the 998th generation of symbiotes, Venom's first host was Tel-Kar, a Kree soldier who used it for genocidal purposes, turning the symbiote into a hate-filled, rage-driven entity, kind of like a black hole. Despite its violent beginnings, Venom later sought to bond with and protect its hosts, a rare trait among its species. Fearing contamination, because as we know from our society, care and compassion are highly contagious, Venom's species imprisoned it, seeing its protective nature as a threat. The symbiote's first human host was Deadpool, who found it on Battleworld and wore it briefly, hoping for a makeover. When he realized it was alive and connecting with his mind, he quickly returned it to its prison, fearing it would affect his sanity.
I'm touching myself tonight.
Moments later, Spider-Man arrived with his damaged suit, released the symbiote, and unknowingly bonded with it. To his surprise, the new suit could mimic street clothes and generate an endless supply of stronger webbing. Back on Earth, Spider-Man wore the symbiote, but became unsettled by its independence. After taking it to the Fantastic Four, he learned it was a sentient being wanting to permanently bond with him. With their help, and by exploiting its sensitivity to sound and heat, probably by exposing it to mumble rap, Spider-Man managed to remove the symbiote. And why did he do that? Because, as Uncle Ben said,
With great power comes great responsibility.
Venom later hid in his closet as a spare costume and tried to bond with Parker again.
Hello, mother.
This time, Spider-Man fled to a bell tower where the ringing weakened the symbiote, forcing it to let go. Despite being rejected, the symbiote used its last bit of strength to save Peter before escaping through the floor. Eddie Brock, once a childhood friend of Peter Parker and a reporter for the Daily Globe, lost his job when Spider-Man exposed a false story he had written about a senator. This disgrace destroyed Brock's career.
You're fired, Eddie. I can't trust you.
Well, who could see that coming? He was then forced to work for tabloid magazines. Adding to his troubles, he was diagnosed with terminal adrenal cancer. As his life fell apart, disowned by his father and divorced by his wife, Brock went to the same bell tower from before seeking redemption. Well, of course he goes in the same bell tower in which Spider-Man fights Venom. What a coincidence. Drawn to Brock's obsession with Spider-Man and his cancer like a kid to candy, the symbiote bonded with him, keeping him alive and granting him new powers. However, Brock's hatred for Peter warped the symbiote's feelings, turning its focus on Spider-Man into a deadly obsession. Together, they referred to themselves as we, acknowledging the dual nature of their bond.
We are Venom.
Brock also called the symbiote my other and I, hinting at their shared fate. As Venom, the pair fought Spider-Man several times while occasionally acting as vigilantes.
We can do whatever we want.
Though the symbiote successfully bonded with Eddie, it saw him as an inferior host and viewed Spider-Man as its true soulmate.
I am inside your head. You are a loser, Eddie.
It constantly tried to return to Spider-Man, even while seeking to destroy him. I guess this must be one of those love-hate relationships. While initially dependent on a host, the Venom symbiote was fully sentient, with its own personality, and transformed its hosts into predators to protect them. Its bond with Peter Parker gave the symbiote a glimpse into human emotions, but Peter's rejection left it heartbroken and weakened without a host. This vulnerability sparked both its love and hatred for Peter. As it grew more corrupt, the symbiote became arrogant and cruel, belittling its hosts and declaring Eddie inferior to Spider-Man. This disdain extended to later hosts like Angelo, whom it abandoned mid-air, causing his fatal fall.
Cooperate, and you might just survive. That is the deal.
The Venom symbiote grew increasingly bloodthirsty, twice leaving Eddie Brock when he refused to satisfy its craving for flesh. Brock described the symbiote's rage and hunger as a dark, overwhelming force, reducing his mind to chaos at its peak. Even without a host, the symbiote could extend its biomass into tentacles, forming a fanged mouth and large white eyes. When bonded to a host, it could shapeshift, mimic clothing, and blend into surroundings, becoming nearly invisible. It also enhanced its host's physical abilities to superhuman levels, sometimes surpassing Spider-Man's thanks to the genetic code it absorbed from Parker.
Wow. This feels good.
Eddie Brock was the third human to bond with the symbiote, gaining Spider-Man's powers and new abilities as the symbiote continued to evolve. Venom's strength ranged from slightly above Spider-Man's to matching heavy hitters like the Juggernaut. This increased power came from mutations that occurred when the symbiote bonded with Brock, adding mass and muscle over time. Venom's body was highly resistant to damage, able to withstand attacks from superpowered foes and high-caliber bullets, even absorbing smaller firearm rounds. This durability extended to his stamina, allowing for long battles and survival in harsh environments like underwater or toxic gases, where the symbiote filtered breathable air. Totally overpowered? The symbiote had advanced regenerative powers, healing itself and its host quickly, even in life-threatening situations. Well, unless there is a fire. It could also cure illnesses and injuries beyond the scope of human medicine, including keeping Brock's cancer in check. The symbiote possessed genetic memory, able to absorb knowledge from hosts and other beings through touch. This ability also let it copy powers as seen when it mimicked Spider-Man's abilities like wall crawling and web slinging. A very convenient superpower, if you ask me. Venom replicated many of Spider-Man's abilities, including wall crawling, achieved by controlling interatomic attraction between surfaces. It could also shoot web-like strands of the alien substance made of tough, flexible organic fibers that regenerated quickly. However, overusing this webbing would weaken Venom as it reduced the symbiote's mass temporarily. Venom had an extrasensory ability similar to Spider-Man's spider sense, but more efficient, allowing it to detect danger faster, though its reflexes were slower than Spider-Man's.
That's just cheating.
Since Spider-Man was an early host, Venom and its offspring could bypass his spider sense, making them especially dangerous. Venom possessed the ability to generate and manipulate matter, allowing him to reshape his symbiotic form and smother victims from the inside. He could create offensive blades and morph his arms into bat-like wings for gliding. Is there anything Venom can't do?
The way I see it, we can do whatever we want.
While Brock was the host, he directed the symbiote to display its maniacal grin, distinguishing him from Spider-Man. Venom's naturally venomous teeth nearly killed Sandman after a bite, rendering him unable to reform his physical properties.
Eyes, lungs, pancreas. So many snacks, so little time.
Venom had two main weaknesses: sensitivity to sonic and thermal attacks, which could disorient and pacify him temporarily. Furthermore, an ancient symbiote named Null could mentally influence all other symbiotes, driving them into a frenzy of bloodlust and bending them to his will. Venom's journey is a wild ride from his creation as a formidable symbiote to his evolution into a reluctant anti-hero. Join us on the next video where we uncover the terrifying Null, the god of the symbiotes. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you love superhero movies.